Here are the stories shaping the world this morning and why they matter. In Venezuela, the confirmed death toll from last week's twin earthquakes has risen sharply as rescue teams continue searching collapsed buildings in difficult and dangerous conditions. The quakes, both measured above magnitude 7, struck within a minute of each other on June 24th. National Assembly President Jorge Rodriguez said 1,943 deaths had been confirmed as of Tuesday, with an unknown number of people still unaccounted for. Some reports say tens of thousands remain listed as missing. The worst damage is being reported along the Caribbean coast in La Guaira, where apartment blocks and vacation homes collapsed or were badly damaged between the mountains and the sea. Satellite data analyzed by NASA has helped identify heavily affected areas, but the geography is making relief work harder. The United Nations says heavy rain is increasing the risk of landslides and further structural failure. For families in La Guaira, the immediate needs are still basic: safe shelter, clean water, medical care, and information about missing relatives. Aid groups are also warning about public health risks. Displacement, standing water, and low vaccination rates could raise the threat of dengue and yellow fever outbreaks. The focus now is not only on search and rescue, but on preventing a second wave of harm among people who have already lost homes, relatives, and livelihoods. In Washington, Donald Trump's financial ties to cryptocurrency ventures are facing renewed scrutiny after disclosures and related reporting described major income during his first year back in office. A filing through the U.S. Office of Government Ethics said Trump received nearly $550 million from ties to World Liberty Financial in 2025. His annual financial filing listed $1.4 billion in income from cryptocurrency ventures, including $635 million attributed to royalties from the Trump meme coin. World Liberty Financial was co-founded by Trump's two eldest sons and the son of envoy Steve Witkoff. Reporting also says a company connected to the government of Abu Dhabi bought a 49% stake in World Liberty Financial for $500 million in 2025. That purchase came shortly before the Trump administration approved delivery of thousands of advanced artificial intelligence microprocessors to the Gulf Emirate. Academics and opposition Democrats say the overlap between public policy and private profit raises conflict of interest concerns. Supporters of the industry argue that crypto needs clearer rules and space to innovate. But for ordinary investors, the risks are concrete. The Trump meme coin reportedly fell from an initial peak of $45 to less than $2, leaving late buyers with steep losses. The larger question is whether public officials can regulate fast-moving financial markets while they, their families, or their businesses have a direct stake in the outcome. U.S. contacts with Iran remain indirect this morning, despite a round of talks with Middle East leaders described by a senior Washington official as very positive. The U.S. team is led by Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, and separate meetings with Qatari and Pakistani mediators are expected on Wednesday. Qatar's foreign ministry says Witkoff and Kushner are not in Doha for direct negotiations with Iranian officials. Iranian parliamentary speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf indicated that Tehran is not ready to move into talks on a final agreement with the United States. Iran says 5 provisions in an agreed memorandum must be implemented first, including what it calls the immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts, including Lebanon. Vice President J.D. Vance said Washington is trying to judge how serious Iran is, and that the administration cares more about actions than words. The indirect format matters because it can keep lines of communication open while avoiding the political pressure of a formal bilateral meeting. For people across the region, the stakes are immediate: fewer military operations, more predictable diplomacy, and less disruption to daily life, trade, and energy markets. For now, the new development is that mediation is continuing, but direct U.S. Iran talks have not begun. Western Europe is still assessing the human toll of a 5-day heat wave that pushed temperatures above 40 degrees Celsius in several areas. France's public health agency reported at least 1,000 excess deaths between Wednesday and Sunday, though officials say the figures are not yet final. Spain recorded more than 1,000 excess heat-related deaths in June, with a Carlos III University study citing at least 1,028 deaths due to extreme heat. The report described this June as the second hottest June on record. Public health authorities in France and Spain urged people to keep older adults, children, outdoor workers, and people with health conditions out of direct sun and well hydrated. Heat can be especially dangerous because it often affects people at home, at work, or in care settings before it becomes visible as a broader emergency. The impact falls unevenly. Construction crews, farm workers, delivery workers, and people in apartments without air conditioning face higher risk. Families caring for elderly relatives may have to change routines, check in more often, and make sure medications, cooling, and hydration are being managed. Governments across Europe are also under pressure to expand cooling centers, strengthen worker protections, adjust school and care home plans, and redesign cities with more shade and green space. The warning from health officials is serious, but it is also practical. Early action can save lives. Global sea surface temperatures reached a June record, with the average reported at 21 degrees Celsius. Scientists and environmental experts say the warming trend is putting growing pressure on marine ecosystems, including coral reefs that support fisheries, tourism, and coastal protection. French Polynesia is being cited as one clear example of coral stress linked to high water temperatures. Corals can fade, turn unusually bright under stress, and then bleach white when they lose the algae that helps sustain them. Experts say repeated disruption leaves less coral, poorer coral health, and more algae competing for space. That shift is not only an environmental concern. It affects fish habitat, local food sources, and communities that rely on reefs for work and cultural life. The broader driver identified by experts is climate change, with ocean warming creating long-term adaptation challenges. For coastal families and workers, adaptation can mean better reef monitoring, stronger fisheries management, less local pollution, and planning for tourism and shoreline protection in a changing climate. The record itself is alarming, but the response is not limited to warning. Scientists, local governments, and communities are increasingly focused on protecting the healthiest reefs, reducing avoidable stress, and giving damaged ecosystems the best chance to recover. In the United States, the Supreme Court has rejected Donald Trump's attempt to limit birthright citizenship, preserving a constitutional rule that has shaped American life for nearly 150 years. The court ruled 6-3 against Trump's reinterpretation of the 14th Amendment. 2 conservative justices joined the court's 3 liberal justices in blocking the executive order. Trump signed the order on his first day back in office last year. It said, "Children born in the United States to parents who are in the country illegally or on temporary visas are not American citizens." The court's ruling upholds the citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment, which says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to its jurisdiction are citizens. For families, the decision brings clarity on questions that affect birth certificates, passports, schooling, health coverage, and long-term security. For hospitals, state agencies, and local governments, it avoids a patchwork of rules that could have left newborn children in uncertain legal status. The ruling also reinforces the idea that constitutional protections are not easily rewritten by executive order. Immigration remains a deeply contested policy area, but the court's decision keeps a long-standing citizenship standard in place while Congress and the public continue debating the wider system. Poland says it will not provide additional fighter jets to Ukraine, exposing new strain between 2 neighbors that have been closely linked since Russia's full-scale invasion. Defense Minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz made the comments in a television interview on Monday, saying Ukraine had failed to honor an agreement to share drone technology with Poland in exchange for aircraft. The dispute concerns additional Soviet-era MiG-29 fighter jets. Poland has been one of Ukraine's most important supporters, hosting refugees, sending military aid, and serving as a major logistics hub. But relations have been tested by history, wartime pressures, and competing national interests. Last month, Poland announced it would strip Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky of the country's highest decoration. Polish officials cited Ukraine's decision to name a military unit after a World War II-era group accused of massacring Poles. Zelensky had received the honor in 2023. He also skipped an international Ukraine recovery conference held in Poland in late June. For Ukrainians living under Russian attacks, every dispute over air defense and aircraft can feel urgent. For Polish voters and workers, the government is also weighing national security, technology sharing, defense spending, and historical memory. The latest comments do not end Poland's broader support for Ukraine, but they show that wartime partnerships require trust, follow-through, and political care on both sides. Japan's Prime Minister Takaichi Sanae has left for a 3-day visit to India, with energy, transportation, and economic cooperation high on the agenda. She is expected to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday. The 2 leaders are set to discuss vehicles powered by biogas, made from materials such as cow manure, along with energy projects aimed at farming villages. Japan and India want to promote biogas use across rural India and establish 1,000 biogas plants around the country. They also plan research to improve biogas production. The initiative is intended to help create an Indian market for biogas-powered cars made by Japanese automakers, while giving villages a cleaner way to turn agricultural waste into usable energy. An economic forum during the visit will include more than 150 Japanese companies. Takaichi said she hopes to make concrete progress and strengthen the Japan-India strategic partnership. For farmers and rural families, the promise is practical: more local energy, less waste, possible new income streams, and reduced reliance on imported fuels. For workers in Japan's auto sector, it could open a new market at a time when the industry is adapting to electric, hybrid, and alternative fuel technologies. The project is still about diplomacy and business, but it also reflects a wider shift toward energy systems that are cleaner, more local, and better matched to community needs. In Lahore, Pakistan, a roof collapse at a tutoring center has killed 14 children and injured 5 other people. The collapse happened Tuesday afternoon in Pakistan's second-largest city. The children who died were between 4 and 11 years old. Those injured included children and the tutoring center owner. Police say the center was housed in an aging building, and workers had been repairing the roof ahead of the rainy season. Authorities suspect poor maintenance may have contributed to the collapse. The owner and 2 other people have been detained while the investigation continues. President Asif Ali Zardari expressed sorrow and called for stronger safety measures. For the families affected, the loss is devastating and immediate. Tutoring centers are part of daily life for many families trying to help children keep up in school and build better futures. Parents send young children to these places expecting care, not danger. The case is now raising questions about building inspections, repair standards, and accountability for private education spaces. In cities where older structures are heavily used, especially before monsoon rains, safety checks can be the difference between routine maintenance and tragedy. The investigation will need to establish responsibility, but the broader lesson is already clear. Children's learning spaces must be safe before they are allowed to operate. Indonesia has begun enforcing biometric registration for new mobile phone numbers, a step officials say is aimed at reducing online fraud. Under the new rule, people activating new SIM cards must complete facial recognition matched against the government's resident database. Previously, customers needed only a resident registration number. Telecommunications carriers that failed to comply face administrative sanctions, including possible temporary suspension of business operations. The government says the change is necessary because many fraud cases involve SIM cards registered under false identities or other people's personal data. The Indonesia Anti-Scam Center received nearly 580,000 fraud reports over the past year and a half. For ordinary phone users, the policy could make scams harder to carry out and easier to investigate. Fraud can drain savings, target older people, disrupt small businesses, and undermine trust in digital payments. But biometric systems also raise serious privacy and data security questions. People will want assurances that face data is protected, access is limited, and errors can be corrected quickly. The challenge for Indonesia is to fight online crime without creating new risks for citizens. Strong oversight, transparent rules, and secure data handling will matter as much as the technology itself. Wednesday marks 10 years since the 2016 terrorist attack in Dhaka, Bangladesh, that killed 22 people, including 7 Japanese nationals. Armed Islamic extremists stormed a restaurant in the capital. The Japanese victims were working on Japan International Cooperation Agency projects, part of Japan's overseas development work. On the anniversary, Okamura Komakichi, the father of victim Okamura Makoto, said security measures at the time had been inadequate. He urged Japan to hold thorough discussions with host governments and request proper security for people sent overseas. Experts say aid work should continue, but with careful risk assessment and stronger coordination. That means governments, companies, universities, non-governmental organizations, and international institutions should share warning signs, prepare clear safety plans, and avoid leaving workers to manage threats on their own. The anniversary is a moment of remembrance, but also a policy warning. Development workers, engineers, teachers, and medical staff often serve in places where their work is needed and welcomed, yet where security conditions can change quickly. Protecting them does not mean retreating from international cooperation. It means taking their safety seriously, planning with local partners, and making sure people doing public interest work abroad are not treated as an afterthought. The U.S. Commerce Department has lifted export controls on Anthropic artificial intelligence models less than 3 weeks after suspending access on national security grounds. The models named include Mythos and Fable. They had been blocked worldwide on June 12th because Washington said advanced AI systems could be misused by military or intelligence actors in China, Russia, or other countries of concern. Anthropic has agreed to work with the U.S. government on security protocols and release standards for current and future models. The company also agreed to proactively detect and address security risks associated with the systems. The dispute followed earlier tension over military use of Anthropic tools. For the AI industry, the decision shows how quickly policy is changing around advanced models. Companies want to sell products globally, researchers want access, and governments want safeguards against misuse. For workers and businesses that depend on AI tools, sudden restrictions can affect planning, contracts, and software development. For the public, the central issue is accountability. Powerful technologies should be useful, but they also need rules that reduce harm. The lifting of controls does not end the debate. It moves it into a more structured phase, where companies and governments are trying to define what responsible release, monitoring, and national security cooperation should look like in practice. Follow for a daily world brief. Sources are linked in the description. That's the world, as Minerva saw it.